How many times should I forgive? That's Matthew 18:15 through 25. Matthew chapter 18:15 through 35. All right, so let's go ahead. Let's just read through this here, and then we'll go back and talk about the main points here. Matthew 18, starting with the 15th verse.
Matthew 18, verse 15. And if your brother sins against you, go and convict him between you and him alone. If he hears you, you have gained your brother. But if he does not hear, take with you one or two more, that by mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word might be established. And if he refuses to hear them, say it to the assembly. And if he refuses even to hear the assembly, let him be to you like the nations and a tax collector. Truly, I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in heaven, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosed in heaven. Again, I say to you that if 2 of you agree on earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the heavens. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in their midst. Then Kepha came to him and said, Master, how often shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Yeshua said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. Because of this, the reign of the heavens is like a certain man, a sovereign who wished to settle accounts with his servants. And when he had begun to settle one was brought to him who owed him 10,000 talents. But as he was unable to pay, his master commanded that he be sold, and his wife and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. Then the servant fell down before him, saying, Master, have patience with me, and I shall pay you all. And the master of that servant was moved with compassion, released him, and forgave him the debt. And the servant went out and found one of his fellow servants who owed him 100 denarii, and laid his hands on him and took him by the throat, saying, Pay me what you owe. Then his fellow servant fell down at his feet and begged him, saying, Have patience with me, and I shall pay you all. But he would not, and went and threw him into prison till he should pay the debt. And when his fellow servants saw what he had done, they were deeply grieved, and came and reported to their master all that had taken place. Then his master called him and said to him, Wicked servant, I forgave you all that debt, seeing you begged me. Should you not also have had compassion on your fellow servant, as I also had compassion on you? And his master was wroth and delivered him to the torturers until he should pay all that was due to him. So also my heavenly Father shall do to you if each of you from his heart does not forgive his brother his trespasses.
Okay, very good. So let's go back up here and look at a few things. Back at verse 15. Where it starts off and says, if your brother sins against you. What's the King James says right there? Does that use the word sin?
Trespass. Yeah.
What's that word, man? Trespass. What's the word?
A mark.
What?
Mark.
Oh, that's like sin, right?
It's the mark.
Oh, that's exactly sin.
Sin, right?
Okay, so it's interesting when we look at this, right? Because we sit up here these days and we be cutting people off that wrong. That word there means to sin or to fault or offend, to trespass. Now, when we think about if somebody sins against you, somebody sins against you, I'm not sure if that always got to be like a sin against the Most High. It's not really saying that. It's talking about them doing something against you. Like we think about sin and then automatically think about like the commandments. But I think the idea here is somebody committing a thing against you that's contrary to you. And then not only that, but kind of this intentional effort for you to go and reconcile with the person. It's interesting that it says, if your brother sins against you. First of all, your brother. So somebody who you have a particular relationship with, who might got the same DNA as you, or he might have lived and had similar experiences with you in life. That person sins against you. And Yeshua here is saying you're supposed to go and convict that person. I want to look at that word there, convict. Between you and him, first of all, alone. So that word there is of uncertain affinity. They're not sure where this thing even came from, this word. But it means to confute, to admonish, convict, convince, tell a fault, rebuke, reprove. Look at the word study there, where it says to shame, to disgrace. That's interesting. To show to be wrong. Now, first of all, this is between you and this other person. Right? And so somebody did something to you. Somebody sins against you, your brother, your this person who you have a real relationship with. First of all, I just want to say, if you don't have, me personally, if I don't even have a real relationship with you, it's impossible for you to offend me. I'm just going to say that. 'Cause I don't really care what you say to me if I don't have a relationship with you. Because it don't mean anything. It's like me, I could be watching the TV live. You know what I mean? It's just something that somebody said on TV. Like, so what? I don't really have a relationship with you. It don't matter what you say. It don't hurt me. Like, I can't be offended by that because you don't even really know me.
Exactly. That's That's people that be out in the street. A random person say something about you, your
So
mom,
what? You don't know
and
me.
you ready to fight and do all this extraness because you said, "Oh, you don't know nothing about me.
You don't know me.
Just move along." Yeah,
So I just want to say that.
I'm like that too.
But your brother sins against you. It said go to that person and put them to shame. Disgrace them. Now to them, that's just you and me. Like, man, you straight tripping right now. Like that thing you did, that didn't make a bit of sense with you. You was real goofy when you did that. When you did that thing that you did. Right? But that's one-on-one.
Well, wait a second. That's somebody that you already know.
That's what we're talking
When
about.
somebody says the bad word, the G word, that might.
No. I'm saying to somebody that you have a relationship with. We done talking about the person that you don't know anymore, right? We talking about somebody who you do have a relationship with. You take them to the side and be like, that thing that you did, you need to be ashamed of yourself for doing that. In fact, you is ashamed, man, and disgrace. You know, because that's how you talk to somebody who you got a relationship with. You able to say things to them, and they understand your intent.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's why it's important when it's talking about in verse 15, if your brother sins against you, then you go and talk to them between you and him alone. Because y'all can say whatever y'all want to say to one another, and it's okay to say it. And then you don't got somebody else looking on and be like, did he just say what I think he just said? And then you don't got somebody looking at what somebody else might interpret it and then make them, you know how sometimes it may not even be that bad what somebody say to you, but because they said it to you around somebody else, it make it worse. But this ain't that, right? This is just two people talking about something that happened. With the idea of reconciliation. I like the fact that it said there, if he hears you, you gained your brother. Because the thing that he did, it caused him not to be your brother no more. Because he was your brother, and then he did something against you, and then he rectifies it, and then you gained a brother. So the thing that he did was so egregious that you wasn't dealing with that person as a brother anymore. But then once you went through the process, then now you gained your brother. But verse 16, but if he doesn't hear you though. Now we might stop really after 15. Like you go and then I went and said to him, I went and confronted him. I confronted him. I told him about himself. And then he was trying to act like he didn't do it. So then I was like, all right, well then I'm done with you. That's how we be sometimes. We stop right there. I went and talked to him. And then he wasn't trying to even accept real responsibility for what he did. So I don't got no time for that. I'm just gonna go ahead. Verse 16 don't say that. If he don't hear you, if he don't accept the things that you said, now you pull somebody else into the situation now. Because you want to get back to gaining your brother. Like this is like a big math problem. Like if you, and then it's over like once you get back to the brother thing. But if you don't get right back to the brother, you got to do this other part of a equation to get you back to zero again.
I want to point out too that there in verse 16, where it says, if he does not hear you, when you pull that word up there, akou, whatever it is in Greek, one of the definitions, I'll read it. It says, be noise, be reported. The last one is to understand. When a person do something against you, they didn't see it as wrong. They probably didn't see it as an offensive thing or they're sinning against you. And so when you go to them, you're trying to help them to understand that this was wrong. I didn't like what you did, or this was the offense. And then that's when you're supposed to get somebody else who can understand the offense. And then both of you come maybe having another perspective to help convince this person that what you did was not right.
Yeah.
That point.
Yes. With the now, I would be interested to know in the Septuagint, is that word here in the Greek what is used for Shema. If I was really going to sit down and study right now, I would be trying to find out in the Septuagint if that here, right there, is the same word that's in the Old Testament where it says here, that they use this Greek word. But yes, the point is that we want to get back to reconciliation. We want to get back to where we started from. And so you wasn't trying to understand what the situation was when it was just the two of us. So I had to go get one or two more people to come back and with the intent on reconciling. And so I'm saying that what we do sometimes is, we get in such a rush to kind of cut people off, be done dealing with people, where Yeshua is trying to cause us to think about things in another way, where the intention is on getting back to right relationship. And going through multiple steps to do so. First you go, then two people go. And then if he refuses after the two people go to hear you, then you go say it to the assembly then. And then if he refuses even to hear the assembly, it is a word. Interesting. So when we're talking about this idea of hearing, right? It's not just about just an audible thing that's going, words going into your ears. Like there's understanding. It's interesting when you look at these things like in another language. It's a different word, but it's giving you the same ideas. Like when you hear a thing, when you really hear a thing, like there's understanding that's associated with it. If I'm understanding, then, I'm kind of doing what it is. Like you talking to these, I always think about these kids. If I talk to these kids, if I say, get up and go over here and do this, and you didn't do it, then there's like a breakdown in communication. Maybe you didn't really understand what I'm saying, that I need for you to get up, and go over and do what I'm saying to do. Like, and then when you do it, you exhibit understanding. And so you go before this person and You say what you had to say to the person and they didn't understand. So now you got to go and find somebody else to come with you so that they can help convey this idea that you have sinned against this person with the intent, again, on reconciliation. And then after you've done all of those things, now it says in verse 17, and if they refuse to hear the assembly, let him be to you like the nations and the tax collector.
What are you up with the tax collector?
Tax collectors, they just wasn't good for nothing. They wasn't no good. They really was a people who, and it's interesting that I put them there, because they really was a people that was like the nations who didn't have the good of the nation in mind and the things that they was doing. And so you can't take it to this point. You can't take it to this point of treating these people like the nations or a tax collector unless you go through these steps. If you out here cutting people off and treating your brother like the nations and you didn't go through these steps to ensure that they had a full understanding of your side of things and what they did to you, then you can't treat them like the nations and the tax collector. Because you didn't go through the steps.
That's right.
But it's interesting that when you look at this, because really you're treating that person the way that they want to be treated. And you treating that person like they deserve. They deserve to be treated the way that they want to be treated. Because I tried to treat you like a brother, but you didn't want to be treated like a brother anymore. You know, family has an interesting relationship with one another. They wrong each other, but then they get over it and they keep on living their life. They get over it. 1 second they're sworn enemies, and then 2 seconds later they're good with one another. They reconcile. And so Yeshua's talking about this and bringing it to that kind of a thought is that the idea is to reconcile. But this person that got all the way down to verse 17, where you let him be unto you like the nations and the tax collector, that's the way he wanted it because he refused to reconcile. They're not operating, that person is not operating in the spirit anymore. The offense, the sin, was brought to their attention and they didn't care. They didn't have any remorse. They didn't care about the sin or the offense. They didn't care about the fact that what they did, if we're saying that if it was a sin, they didn't care about the fact that the Most High didn't like it. They didn't care about the fact that you didn't like it. They didn't care about the fact that there was pain involved by you from them. But that's how the nations would behave. I don't care about your sin. I don't care about the things that you deem as holy. It's not holy to me. That's how a Gentile would be. Right?
Yep.
You saying that eating pork is nasty? I eat pork. I eat pork. I eat rabbits. I eat raccoons. I eat all those things. It don't matter to me. What you say is holy don't mean it's not holy to me. That's how the nations look at you anyway. So it's not like you're even treating that person a certain kind of way. They've defined themselves. They put their own self in a particular category, and you just treating them like they want to be treated. They put their own self in the category because you brought to them your issues, and they didn't care about your issues.
But no, it's that mean that
Uh-huh.
they might be out of that. So like, people use this for the whole concept of like disfellowshipping person. You know what I mean? Like they did this thing. They went through these steps, 2 to 3. Then the whole assembly, they still didn't want to make it right. So now they're not part of the, part of the group, part of the.
Well, I think that's taken to another level. I want to talk about that level, but I'm just saying as far as, I do want to talk about that level, but I think if we just looking at it from these 3 verses here, it's kind of just on a more general, individual level, where it's this person did something against another person, and then because of that thing that the one person did to the other, then grounds have been created for that the offender to be treated a certain kind of way. And then moving in that direction now, because of the way that they're acting, the thing that they're doing is not caring about, if we're talking about sin, they're not caring about the Most High. And if we're just only talking about an offense, they're not caring about their neighbor. So they don't love the Most High or their neighbor. And so they're acting like a Gentile. They're acting like the nations would act. And so all you're doing is then rightfully treating them as such. That's the way they want to be treated. Because you already tried to let them know that what they was doing was offensive to the Most High and you. And they didn't care. Right? So that's what a heathen would do. Right? And so now, when you look at 18, now, yes, people look at, this is interesting. Read again verse 18.
It says, truly I say to you, whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in heaven, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosened in heaven.
Okay, so now we think about this idea of, you brought up, what words did you say? Oh, you said the word.
This is excommunication.
Yeah, excommunication or disfellowship. And so when you look at this over here, and so when you put 18 with 17, and go to Matthew 16 and 19. Do it say the word keys over there? Matthew 16 and 19.
Yeah.
Keys to the reign of heaven.
Oh yeah, what do it say? What do Matthew 16 and 19 say?
Matthew 16, verse 19, and I shall give you the keys of the reign of the heavens, and whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in the heavens, and whatever you loosen on earth shall be having been loosened in the heavens.
Okay, very good. Okay, we could go back to chapter 18. Keys, I think this is a huge understanding here. Because if I got the keys to the door, not only am I able to open the door so that you could get in, but I could lock you out too. Right? Yep. I could lock you out. If I don't want you to come in that door, I got the key, I can lock it. And then you won't get in. because I locked it. But when we look at what we just read in 15, 16, and 17, that person didn't lock nothing. That person accepted the offender's reality and preferences. It was totally the offender's choice to be whatever he wanted to be, and all the other persons or peoples did was agree with that. So for all intents and purposes, that person really had the key, like they did the locking. They locked their own self out.
Yeah.
All you was doing was just treating them the way that they presented their own self. He said, let him be to you like the nations, because that's how they was already acting. Now, the offended was trying to reconcile, and they didn't want to reconcile. And so, I think that when people look at this thing and they see keys, I can only think about keys like what I do with keys. Like I keep the door locked because I don't want people who just randomly walk over to just be opening up my door and walking through it. Like if you come in, if you just walking in, you're supposed to be in there. And if you ain't supposed to be in there, I don't want you to be in there. So I locks the door to keep people out. And so we talking about people locking people out of the kingdom? Can you lock somebody out of the kingdom? Is when we look at these verses, and this is the issue here. When I looked at these verses, I didn't see the offended locking the offender from anything. They behaved in a particular way, and then the offended only agreed with how they were behaving.
But there's still consequences to the
Consequences that the offender created. Like he created his own consequences.
It sounds
Like all he had to do was accept and be remorseful for what he did. And all he had to do was act like a brother, but he wasn't acting like a brother. So you the one, I tried to treat you like a brother, but you didn't want to be treated like a brother. So if I'm agreeing with you, did I lock you out or did you lock your own self out? What was you gonna say?
I'm saying, like, when Yeshua was talking about giving the keys, it seemed like those were the keys unlocked. And those who don't got the keys unlocked, like on a spiritual sense. Because we ain't talking about no real keys.
Yeah.
We talking about spiritual keys. So you walking in Yeshua, you should be able to go around and unlock these things that are locking people in.
You hitting it right there. Say that again. What you just said?
If you walking in Yeshua, in his ways, you got the keys to unlock the things that's locking people up. Because that's the problem. So when you're able to go to somebody who offended you and you trying to unlock them because they're locked. And that thing that they lock themselves behind is causing offense. Because generally, if a righteous person, if you righteous and the offense comes to a righteous person, that means that if they're not hearing you, they're not going to hear the next person. And so they wonder why they nobody like me. Or this. Because you do this to people. They don't acknowledge that. And then you try to unlock them, and so like you said, because you don't want to be unlocked, you like a nation then. Because I don't know what you're going to do.
If I offend you, and then you come and tell me that I was offensive to you, 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say, "Well, I didn't mean to offend you." 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna say, I didn't mean to offend you. Like, it wasn't my intent to do that. If I offended you, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
And so the spirit in me is going to move me in that direction. And so, and
This he said 9 times out of 10.
9 times out of 10, I'm not perfect. If I offend you, I probably didn't mean it. Probably didn't mean it. And if I did, I apologize, right? And so the only thing that's going to keep me from doing it, the only thing that's going to keep me like, I'm saying like in that 10% is just me being carnal.
Yeah.
And so the only reason why I don't forgive you is because I'm just being carnal. I'm not dealing from a spiritual point. From a spiritual perspective, I want to be right with you.
Right.
In my flesh, I don't. And so if I'm operating in the spirit, then now I'm doing the things that's like unto the spirit, right? And so when you don't do that, you're behaving like the nations. But then when we add in 18, where it says whatever you bind on earth, you shall be having been bound in heaven, and loose on earth shall be having been loose in heaven. It's interesting that you start talking about it the way you was talking about it, because like I said, when you think about people and the way that they treat this verse, and the word keys makes people think about locking people out of things, when the example that we looked over here didn't have nothing to do with nobody locking people out. It only has something to do with you accepting another person's way that they wanted. That person wanted for you to receive them in that way, and then all you do was accept it. So they had the keys. They're the one who locked the door, and you just let it be locked. You just accepted the fact that they locked it, right? But this verse over here, when you think about what it is that those people who are in Messiah, what they do, what it is that we do when we think about the idea of binding and loosening. When we think about the idea of just binding and loosening, it seems like it's opposites, binding and loosening. Like either I'm gonna lock you down, from a negative perspective, or I'm going to let you loose, right, from a positive perspective. Is this a negative and a positive, to bind something on earth and to loosen something on earth? For it to be bound in heaven and loosened in heaven? Is it a positive or and a negative? If we look at Isaiah 61, it's two positives. There is no negative. If I'm locking you out, it's good for me, but it's bad for you. If I'm binding something on earth, I'm binding that door closed, it's good for me, but it's bad for you. But if we look at Isaiah 61, binding is good. It's not locked. Let's look at that real quick. Isaiah 61. I'm not blocking nothing if I'm binding it. If I look at Isaiah 61. Isaiah 61. Start reading at verse. Hold on. I'm going to do my own verse. 61. At verse 1.
Isaiah 61, verse 1. The Spirit of the Master Yahweh is upon me, because Yahweh has anointed me to bring good news to the meek. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim release to the captives and the opening of the prison to those who are bound.
Okay, very good. So it's interesting when we think about this idea of these keys to the kingdom. That's about unlocking. It's not about locking. And I'm unlocking by my proclaiming of the gospel. My unlocking comes by the fact that you already locked. The only thing I can do with my key is to unlock. I'm not locking nothing. I'm only unlocking. And the only reason why something stay locked is because you're not letting yourself be unlocked. But the thing that I'm doing by proclaiming this, by bringing this good news to the meek, it said he has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted. So that's a positive thing, to bind something on earth. And then if I'm binding it on earth, it's bound in heaven. But what am I doing? When you look at these words, this brokenhearted, that thing is like something that's splattered all over the place. Something that's supposed to be whole is broken apart in pieces all over the place. And then so with my good news that I'm bringing, I'm taking that thing that's broken and I'm binding it back together. I'm not locking you in chains. That's not what that binding is. That's a repairing something that's broken. Huh? Something that's weak, I'm strengthening it. I can't remember what did we have? Oh, I was at work and somebody had this little plastic broom. It had to be like one of them Family Dollar brooms. It was this little plastic broom, but they fortified it. They took some bolt rod, you know what a bolt rod is? They took some bolt rod and put it on both sides. They made like a splint for this broom and taped it. And they fortified the handle because, you sit there and be sweeping, and if you sweeping so hard, you could break the little handle because it's so flimsy. But they fortified it by binding it up. They took this flimsy thing and they strengthened that thing. And so when we think about this idea of what Yeshua is talking about, where he says, whatever you bind on earth shall be having been bound in heaven. This is not a negative thing of locking somebody from something. These people sat up here and they took every measure that they could take to bring this person who was a brother and started acting like a Gentile, and they tried to get him back over to the thing. But they refused to accept the thing that was coming for them, and then so there was nothing else that they was able to do, and then that just was it. They didn't do anything to them. They did something to themselves.
I mean, eventually they can come back if they decide that they want to be.
That's it. So all we want to do with this gospel is unlock. We're not out here locking. We're just trying to unlock. Your default is lock. And then we want to come with the thing and change that default setting to unlock. But we're not locking though, because you already locked. We trying to unlock. And so Yeshua is only referencing something that he already said, that was already said before he said it. He's referencing, when he talk about binding and loosening, he's referencing the first thing he ever said in public, Isaiah 61. The only thing you binding up is the one that's splattered all over the place, that broken hearted that you're binding back together. And the only thing that you're loosening is somebody who's locked in chains, who's a prisoner. And you're opening those prison doors. You're not creating more prison doors, you're opening prison doors. And so I think that, and especially in the context of what we see over here in Matthew chapter 18, I think that, to me, I think it's a misunderstanding when you think about the idea of locking people out. When you think about this binding and loosening, if we only reference it back to the thing that Yeshua is pulling from, to even mention the idea of binding and loosening, it's only about something positive that he's doing, that we would be doing by sharing the gospel. When you sharing that gospel, you taking out your keys, and you unlocking something with those keys. You're unlocking. You're not locking. You unlock. All right, let's keep on going. Because when we look at 19, I think it's another thing that could probably be misconstrued. 19 and 20. Read 19 and 20 again.
So that again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning any matter that they ask, it shall be done for them by my Father in the heavens. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there I am in their midst.
Okay, very good. He said any matter that they asked. But then he just gave an example of two or three people coming together. But the thing that they was asking didn't happen because the person didn't repent. Right? So it's not really any matter.
This is just like that lady at the store telling Sister Becky she had a prayer party.
I know that's a terrible thing to say.
But I mean, it's an example of, if you take it literally,
Yeah.
if you say, where 2 or 3 are gathered together, I'm in their midst.
Yeah. And
Now,
whatever we agree on, that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But it is not that.
If 2 people agree on something that's just,
We have to have our will be aligned with the will of the Father. Sometimes we be outside of that talking about we want this or that. When that thing that we want is not necessarily the will of the Most High. And so best case scenario, if we're talking about everybody desiring and seeking to have something to come about that the Most High is also agreeing with, when we're able to agree with the Most High, now we on the, look over at Matthew 6. Matthew 6. He said, hold on, read this in the King James. Sometimes you just gotta read stuff in the King James. Read chapter 6, verse 10.
And it says, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven.
We want the will of the Most High as it is in heaven. We want that thing to be done on earth. We want for the Most High's will to be manifested. What's in heaven, we want that to be manifested on earth. And so when we think about this idea of coming together in agreement, like even when we go back and think about what was going on here, it was the intention for everyone to be able to come together as family together. That was the intention. We wanted for this person to love the Most High and to love his brother. But he didn't want to love the Most High or his brother. And so if from that perspective, that thing wasn't able to come together because that person had a differing philosophy on life. Like he didn't believe in the Most High, obvious. Whatever thoughts that they thought about this person before must not have been authentic because they wasn't able to just cause him to come back to the situation, right? So they treated him then now the way that he wanted to be treated. So I'm just saying, when we look at verse 19 where it talks about the idea of all matters, there has to be like a parenthesis, like an asterisk when we think about this, because it's not really all matters. It's first what is the will of the Most High. And when we're trying to allow for the Most High's will to be manifest, then yes, those things will certainly come to pass because we're aligning ourselves with the will of the Most High. But when we're outside of that, it can't be. Right? And so verse 20, where it says 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name. And so the things that you're bringing forth are the things that the Spirit in you is unctioning you to bring forth. When you're able to remove your own self from a situation and speak according to the will of the Most High. When that's going on, the Most High is in your midst. But when you together on some foolishness, the Most High is not in the midst of that. Right? When you think about the idea of being gathered together in my name, your thoughts and ideas and the things that you're bringing forward are those things that are in my name. And he's in the midst of that. I'll never forget when I was in high school and, the coach, we would always do the Our Father prayer before a football game. First of all, a lot of the games was like on Friday night, so we already like, you know what I mean? We already breaking the Shabbat, right? So we say our little Our Father prayer. And then the next thing that coming out of his mouth is like all of this like
Screaming at y'all.
all this peppery language. Right after you just got finished praying. You know what I mean? Like the Most High wasn't in the midst of that.
But y'all came together and said the prayer.
Oh yeah. Right, but we really wasn't all together in his name really. Right? And so I'm just saying, like, we have to be able to look at these things and say, well, it don't mean that, we want this and that. All we got to do is come together and just agree on it, and it's going to come to pass. Because we first got to seek the will of the Most High. Because that's how we're really in, as it says, together in my name. We're really not sitting up here trying to figure something out and then say, well, we'll just all say a prayer about it and then it'll come to pass. We got to look to the Most High first and see what it is that he will have for us to be doing and then agree on that thing in his name, and he's going to bring that to pass because he already wants for that to be. Because we already consulted him first to know what it is that he wants, and then now we're just doing that thing. All right, let's keep on going because I want to talk about this too. Because we look at now Peter. Peter's such an interesting fellow, Peter. He always asks the most amazing questions. He wants to know how many times should I forgive my brother? Up to 7 times? I wonder, was that like a big or a small number when he says, like, to him, was that a lot? Was that a lot when he was saying, should I forgive him like up to 7 times? Or was it a little bit? But Yeshua's like, I didn't say nothing about no 7 times. But up to 70 times 7, he said. But that's another thing, like, so do we have tally marks where somebody could literally, what's 70 times 7? Am I really just like able to forgive somebody 490 times? And then once they hit 491, I don't have to forgive them anymore? Like, I don't think that's the point right there. I don't think like there's an end to it. Like, I don't think we're supposed to keep track. I don't think that there's like a cutoff point. I think that's the point. And I think we see that from the little parable that he gives after the fact. Like there should be a endless amount of forgiveness waiting for those that want forgiveness. Like, I got forgiveness here waiting for you when you ask for it. Because these people in this example, they pleaded for it. They pleaded for forgiveness. Like, they had a debt that they owed, and then they wasn't able to pay the debt, and then they pleaded for forgiveness. Now, the one thing I didn't look at, what is a talent? Like, it's like when I look at 10,000 versus 100, I think 10,000 is a lot. Is one, like, what is the ratio between a talent and a denarii? I wonder. I didn't look at that. Somebody should chat GBT. What's the difference between? Oh yeah.
You know AI though.
Well, I'll talk to the people about that later, but I just want to say I'm smarter than AI. I just want to say that. And I found out yesterday. I'll tell you.
It's artificial. You better be smarter than
I'm smarter than it. I beat it. I won't go into it, but I'm just saying I defeated it very easily. But I wonder what is the difference then between a talent, because just looking at it, a lot, 10,000 talents to me, just looking, because I don't know what it is, it looks like a lot more than 100 denarii.
1 talent is 6,000 denarii.
Hold on, say that again.
1 talent is 6,000 denarii.
1 talent is 6,000 denarii? Oh my goodness. So it's like an exponential amount higher that this first thing is. Like, it already gives you that by saying 10,000. But to know that it takes how many denarii?
6,000.
6,000 denarii is 1 talent? So that's nothing. That's pennies, really. When you look at this second scenario, right? And so in the first scenario, the person was able to be forgiven of this unsurmountable amount of money. And then so now, whenever he's in the same situation and somebody owes him pennies, it's like, nah, man, get out of here. I ain't forgiving you. I want my pennies. After he received forgiveness from like millions of dollars. And then somebody owe him like $2. And you gonna sit up here and act like this is like some unforgivable thing? And so it's interesting when we think about our relationship with Messiah, where the thing that he does for us, the thing that he has already done for us, the way that he's able to bring about forgiveness for us is kind of like this first thing here with the 10,000 talents. Whereas this number that's like so big, like it's not even, like it's how the Powerball is like $500 million. Like you can't even think about like the amount of money that is. And then somebody come along and talk about some little change. And so when we think about the weight of what it is that Messiah has done for us in terms of his forgiveness that he created for us, and then somebody like didn't call you this one time and you don't mess with them no more, or somebody does this little frivolous little thing and you ready to cut them off. Meanwhile, the thing that you did as far as what the Most High is concerned is uncalculatable.
Right.
And he forgave you for that. But you can't forgive. As a matter of fact, you want to sit up here and make tally marks of how many times? Messiah gave Peter a number, but he didn't really mean it. Because there's not a number. Like you got to be able to have forgiveness for people.
Yeah. I think that going back to what you said about not letting people you don't know affect you, like that's a part of forgiveness too. It's like when Yeshua, when he even said, forgive them for they don't know what they do. He ain't know all of them, but he still was like, look, they don't know what they're doing. And he's like, look, forgive them anyway.
Yeah.
And so that's how we gotta be. It's like, people, especially if you don't know them, you ain't hurting me like physically or damaging my property. There ain't nothing you could do to really upset me, really.
Yeah.
Especially with your words.
It was hurt, Steve.
Who? Stevie?
Steve.
Oh yeah, with them rocks.
Oh, yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mike doing it.
Yeah, that's what I said physically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying physically. I gotta,
Physically.
you come physically, I gotta throw rocks back. You know what I'm saying? We gotta get into
Hot
a rock fight. But,
Got some rocks. They hot. Don't got no
But
tips
yeah.
on them.
yeah.
But when we think about what it is that Messiah has done for us and in him representing the Most High on earth, we think about the ways that we go against the Most High and fall short, and his ability to forgive. This is the point when we're able to be forgiven by, for so much. We're able to have been forgiven for so much. Why then can't we forgive for, comparatively speaking, it's uncomparable. 10,000 talents compared to 100 denarii. This big, huge number compared to nothing. It can't be compared. I think that's interesting that they're two different even measurements, because you can't compare one to the other. That thing is so great and so significant, it can't even be compared to this other thing. The thing that the Most High has done for us is uncomparable. And so when we sit up here and look at this little thing that at the end of the day actually means nothing that somebody has done to us, we have to be able to forgive. If we say that we are of Messiah. You know, this is the lesson here. He said, then the master called him and said, you wicked servant. He called him wicked. He even said literally called the person wicked. I forgave you all your debt when you begged me. I think that's a key point, when you begged me, right? But then you wasn't able to have compassion for your fellow servant when he begged you, and it was just 100 denarii. And so when we think about this idea of forgiveness, you know, we have to be, you know, we always have to have forgiveness available for someone, for people. It has to be there available, waiting and ready. We have to have a heart of forgiveness. We have to have that in our hearts and be ready to release the debt when someone comes to be released, right? Because it's interesting and I think that, to me, I think that it's important when we think about the idea of repentance. Because even if we go all the way back to the beginning, you know, what the brother was requiring really of the turned non-brother was some type of repentance. And he never got that, and so they was never able to be reconciled. But he wanted it though. He sought it out intentionally. You know, multiple times, different ways. And so, you know, we have to, so he had that repentance waiting, but not only was it waiting there, but he was like trying, he was actively trying to give it away and couldn't. So it wasn't like he was hiding it. He wasn't hiding the forgiveness, right? He wasn't being elusive with the forgiveness. He had it here waiting, like, here, just take the forgiveness. And the person didn't want it. But I think that sometimes what we do with our forgiveness is, you know, we got that thing locked up in a safe somewhere. We got that thing locked up in the safe. Well, man, you ain't never getting none of this forgiveness. I don't care what you do. The thing is locked up. But I think the point that Messiah is trying to give is that if we truly have a heart of Messiah, if we're truly manifesting the character of the Most High, who was able to forgive the most egregious. Think about the Most High and His holiness. And you think about us in sin, it's just like just filthiness and disgustingness of what we are in sin. And He's able to look at that filth and see the goodness beneath it. Where He's not dealing with us from a point of where we are, but He's dealing with us from a point of the potential that we have.
I mean, that's why He's dealing with Israel again.
Yeah, because it was just about the potential. Because what He looked at was a stiff-necked people. But the thing that was good, the only thing that was good was the potential that they had if they was able to walk in His way, right? And so the same thing is true for us when we think about our relationship, first of all, with Messiah, but that's how we also deal with our fellow man. It's not dealing with, where that person may be, but the potential that that person is able to realize if they are able to be unlocked with these keys that we got. Okay. Does anybody have any thoughts, questions, or comments about any of those?
I think that from an application standpoint, the concept probably works better amongst men than amongst women, because you have to have a certain amount of rationality.
You mean because women are as logical as men?
Let's just use the word
And more
rational.
emotional?
Yeah.
Is that what
You
you
gotta
mean?
have a high emotional intelligence and rationale. And I see how sometimes, like, men talk to each other, sometimes they can get a little rough with each other. And even I'll say something like, that was a little bit rough, but like, it's just, there's no, y'all think differently, you know what I'm trying to say.
That's true.
Like, y'all can say things that sound a little rough, and then but nobody has any hard feel or thinks anything bad of it. It can be difficult. I'm not saying like I'm looking at someone else saying it about them. I'm just saying in general terms.
Yeah, I guess my problem is that to me it's my reality. So I can't relate to what it is that you're talking about. Because to me, I'm able to make certain separations between this or that. I understand emotional things, but I feel like there's a place for that, and I can't be led by that because it's not. It's gonna take me in the wrong place.
Yeah.
But that's carnal, right? And so it's interesting that again when we think about how this all begins with this idea of this brother who wasn't a brother and then was trying to be regained as a brother. The whole difference was in the way that we respond and behave. Right? When we're able to move in a way that is congruent with the character of the Most High, then we're operating in a acceptable way. But when we don't do that, we're operating like the nations and the tax collector.
Mm-hmm.
And so the natural response, the thing that we're supposed to be doing, the way that we're supposed to be living, kind of defines us, and it looks a certain way, and it don't involve those things. And we can't allow those things to kind of be blocks for us. Like to be able to to be able to identify a situation, to me, I think that's the hardest part. Is being able to identify a situation. But once I've identified it, now I can fix it, right? It's one thing to have a problem and don't know what the problem is.
Yeah.
But once I've troubleshooted and figured out what the issue is, and I know what the issue is, I don't got a problem. So we are able to understand that, you know, being stuck in our emotions isn't the way that the Most High will have for us to be. If we just gonna stay there, then that's, I mean, I don't know what to call that. What you call that?
What, if you stuck in your emotions?
Yeah.
I was gonna say something like,
I want somebody else to say what they call it.
I don't want to be offensive, but like, if you're not being logical, what are you being? What's the opposite?
Hold on. Ooh, I got to have illogical?
Illogical, but then when you bring logic to somebody else and they refuse, for me, I mean, the only word I can use, and it's a word that exists for a reason, is now you being stupid. This is just me. If I'm trying to because then once you get to a point where you can't understand logic, now you're just stupid to me, and so I gotta treat you like such. That's where I'm gonna believe you at.
And that's what I'm saying, that's what Yeshua called for now. You going back. It wasn't just a one-time thing. I go to you. I'm trying to get you to see this thing. I'm trying to use my key, but you blocking it. Like you blocking the key. Mm-hmm. And then I go get some help. And you still like. And then I go and get more help. And you still don't want to see it. Well, that's where you want to be at. And so the same thing is true in any situation. When we're dealing with situations, you know, the Most High is calling for us to come up higher and to forsake our carnal minds. Only thing you said is that it's harder. Only thing you said is that it's harder for women than it is for men. It's harder. You got different, generally speaking, y'all got different problems than what we got. Because emotions ain't generally our problem.
Depending on the man. A lot of these men today, I don't know.
Yeah, well, the GMO ones.
Yeah, the
GMO ones. Go ahead.
Yeah, the kingdom mindset is really about like healing and restoring and preparing and gathering. You know, the world is about scattering and breaking and, you know, tearing down. So it's just two different mindsets. And, you know, I think the saints, you know, Jesus, you know, make sure that they have the right mindset. That they are, you know, forgiving and, you know, preparing and restoring. Because, you know, the world is just a bunch of children running around acting immature. You know what I mean? Harboring things and not forgiving and not being able to get past certain situations. That's a sign of immaturity. And the Most High is calling us, you know, we are His children, but He's calling us to start, you know, maturing and start eating meat instead of drinking milk. You know what I mean? So we should be growing. We should be able to, you know, understand that, you know, all of these things that people are doing is because of their ignorance, because of their lack of knowledge, because of their lack of relationship with the Most High. So it should be easy for us to forgive, you know, and try to reconcile.
Yeah. Yeah, easy and necessary.
Yeah.
It should be easy, but it is also It's a necessary thing. It's a part of who we are as believers in Messiah. Is we're holders and purveyors of forgiveness.
That's a
And
part
to
of
not be that is uncharacteristic of us as believers.
exactly.
And so, we have to be able to understand that when we're not doing that, we have to be able to understand that quality that we're exhibiting when we're not doing that that's a stain. That's a stain on our garments.
Yep.
And that thing need to be shouted out.
But I think it's the people who are newer that are most likely to, I don't want to say, I'm just saying, I don't have a statistic, I didn't do a study on this, but I would say that they're the ones that's most likely to, number one, offend, and number two, be offended.
Yes.
The people that are learned or able to kind of let some things pick battles, let some things go, that type of thing. But the people that are the newer ones are the ones that are like not really able to understand, even understand what we're here for. That's another thing. I think I can see that as being a problem as well.
I mean, those that love the law of Yahweh are not easily offended. That's what it says in Psalms 119 and 165 or 168. I forget which one it is.
Yep.
But those that love the law of Yahweh, those that love the law are not easily offended. So when you have a relationship with the Most High and that's intact and you're operating in the spirit of the Most High, most of the time, because it says you're not easily offended.
99%.
90% of the time you're not offended. But that's the time when you're operating in the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So you're able to just, put things where they belong at. And we have to be able to have discernment and discretion and treat people the way, for who they are. Like if I'm talking to a child, I can't expect for them to behave like an adult because they're a child. So I'm gonna treat you that way.
Yep.
And so, this life is about transformation. And we see here, in the teachings of Messiah, he's teaching the disciples what that looks like. We naturally want to put a tally mark on it. We naturally want to say, there's a limit, and I'm keeping track. And the next time you do this, it's over. But you still got to come along and say, look, man, there's no limit to this.
If you do that, you carnal.
It's
You're not walking spiritual, because that means you keeping track.
Yes, but that's what Peter was like. So what? I'm supposed to forgive 7 times?
Right.
I fire people all the time. And I tell them I love them, right? Love you, bro.
All right. Okay, so does anybody have any last questions? Oh, go ahead.
A lot of people, a lot, have not looked at the fact that there's supposed to be examples, major examples of as it is written in this book. So there are still those that cause a lot of abrasion out there. And it takes a lot of prayer, and like you said, work in the spirit in order to make things right according to the way it's written.
our own biological sisters and brothers. I mean, get that close to. So, and this is actually talking about our sister brothers of the nation, because we know we operate as one individual, not separately. So yeah, it takes a lot of prayer and patience and going back and reading and being in the spirit and asking for guidance in order to make through this.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, because the things that we naturally do is contrary to the Most High. And so we have to allow the Spirit to work inside of us to move us out of our nature. The place where we're comfortable at, the things that we want to naturally do, is not the way that the Most High would have for us to be doing. He wants to, through the Spirit, is to cause us to be like Him, which because of sin, we're not that. And so, just like what we're looking at here is the Master showing us the way that we should be, that is different than the way that we naturally are. And so it's a process, but it's a process. But we gotta transform and change, just like Israel coming out of Egypt transformed and changed. The only way they was able to transform and change was things had to be separated from them. Things had to be cut off. Their old ways had to disappear and they had to get new ways. And so that's just the same thing that we deal with here. We have to learn to do righteousness. And we can't grow weary in our well-doing, right? Because that has to become our new normals, acting right.
It's the new script. You're the actor, just the new script. Follow the script. It's that simple. That's it.
Okay, so that being said, I guess for now, we'll be done. God willing, on next Shabbat, we'll be back to continue with our look at the words of the Master and also the Torah portion. We have our, put that up on the screen, we're coming up close to our fall feasts coming up. Put that up on the screen there. We have a list of things that we'll be doing, which is coming up close. September 5th is trumpets. And so, as per usual, if the 5th is trumpets, will be on the day before that. The 4th will go and see the 7th moon at our moon sighting spot to declare the 7th month and get ready for all of our things that go on in the 7th month. Trumpets, the Day of Atonement, and Feast of Tabernacles, which we'll be keeping in North Carolina this year. We'll be traveling far away. But, that's our schedule there. If you want to put those in your calendar, there you go. All right, so, that being said, for now, we'll say Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.